we came across Mobideo about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and kind of fell in love with the program and started using it and working with them from there. Some of the other areas, the areas we specifically use Mobideo are for our basic EH&S observations, the near-miss observations you would enter, your positive observations, your opportunities for improvement, what we call our life-critical standard audits. Every plant's got a different name for life-critical standards, right? Those are our confined space, hot work, fall prevention, isolation of energy, those big core ones that everybody worries about. And we also, some other areas where we do DMA work is electronic safe work permits. I know there was some discussion yesterday in some of the presentation on e-safe work permitting as well. Currently we're using Mobideo in our observation programs on 15 active construction projects in Louisiana and Texas, and we are using it on a turnaround in Bahia Blanca, Argentina at the moment, and an upcoming turnaround in Freeport, Texas as well. The other areas, like Daniel said, where Dow uses Mobideo is global mechanical integrity safety inspections, some quality audits and productivity audits, wrench time data. We've been doing a lot of wrench time data on our turnarounds probably the last 5 years or so. Pipeline inspections, crane and elevator inspections. Those are areas I'm not as familiar with as I am with our EH&S observations, which we'll focus on today. Before we used Mobideo, everything we did was on paper. We'd fill out cards, we'd print thousands and thousands of cards before a turnaround. We'd fill them out, they'd get turned into EH&S professionals working the turnaround or data techs, right? And it may take them a couple of days to get everything entered, depending on how many observations were coming in. So our data was always lagging a little bit. Frank mentioned yesterday in his presentation, one of his previous turnarounds, they had 400 safety cards. We would sometimes get 100 per shift, and it would take whoever was entering those manually, take them a long time to get entered. So we were always 2 days, 3 days behind on the data we're looking at versus what's going on in the field. Another problem, I want to say problem, just a different way Dow does things, is each site kind of has their own way of doing their data, their near-miss reports. So my plant in Louisiana operations, everything was in one bucket. We couldn't look at Freeport's data at our plants in Lake Jackson and Freeport and compare the two. Everything was different, it was separate. You couldn't trend anything together. This allows us to be able to do that to a much better deal. We've increased productivity, we've eliminated paper because everything is done digitally. We use tablets, intrinsically safe phones out in the field, or you can go back to your laptop and enter things on your laptop. But we've eliminated printing costs, we've eliminated waste, and we've allowed, when that EH&S tech doesn't have to spend 2 hours a day entering data, he's out in the field a whole lot more, making more of an impact, intervening with people, keeping workers safe out in the field. It's real-time data. Everything is input. When you input it on the phone, within 15 minutes, it's uploaded into the system and it's uploaded into Power BI where we trend everything. I already mentioned the cost savings. Everything goes directly into Power BI within a matter of 15 minutes. It's updated automatically. We can look at our trends at lunchtime based on what happened in the morning, and then pivot if we need to make any changes the rest of the afternoon and shift our focus area from what we had in the morning to maybe something different in the afternoon. Same thing with days versus nights, right? I've worked with some EH&S managers and professionals that when they prepare their safety tailgates for the day, for the next day, it's the same tailgate material for day shift as it is for night shift. The problems and the challenges on days and nights are always a little bit different, right? You're never facing the same thing on days as you are nights. The lighting is a little bit different at night, obviously. On a recent turnaround, we didn't use nearly as many heavy equipment and moving vehicles on nights as we did during the days. So those kinds of things didn't always apply the same tailgate material. We're also able to trend days versus nights a whole lot easier and tailor those specific messages to both shifts a whole lot easier. This is an example of all of our data from all of our sites, Louisiana, Texas, Argentina. We had some projects going on in Kentucky as well. We can trend all of those against each other. And this is just a quick example of unsafe behaviors and unsafe conditions. The blue is Louisiana, the purple is Texas. So we can kind of compare our projects and turnarounds in one of our sites versus another and see where we need to go make some changes. This top graph on the right, top 10 unsafe behaviors and the top 10 unsafe conditions, the particular hazard classes and where we need to go focus on, Louisiana versus Texas versus some of our other sites. We can also compare specific projects versus projects against each other, and we can deep drill into each specific project and see what each project has as their top 10 or top 5, whatever we want to focus on. This top one up here, hand protection, and we noticed we had clearly the biggest one was hand protection. It's 425 there for whatever period I selected for. That drove us to create an additional audit. Line of fire and hands audit was what we called, and we could figure out exactly what those hand protection problems were. Some of our subclasses beneath the main hazard class was not worn, and that was the leading one for hand protection, was not worn. So we wanted to figure out why the gloves are not being worn, where they're not being worn at, what reasons are the workers having for not wearing their gloves. So we were able to create some additional audits and drill down. Anytime we wanted to create an audit, we'd figure out what we want, we'd send it over to Mobideo, and within a day or two, that audit is in the system and ready to go. We saw an increase in fall prevention not too long ago. We had an incident where a worker at a Dow site in Freeport fell from a ladder and broke some legs, had some back problems, but it prompted us to go look at what we're doing on our construction projects and our turnarounds. Are we seeing that same type of issue, specifically around three-point contact? Both of these graphs are around three-point contact on ladders. Are we seeing observations where our workers are not using three-point contact, or they are? And how do we need to go address that? That was one of our specific hazard subclasses. And then we found that we only had three-point contact with ladders. We didn't have three-point contact with stairs. So that was one we quickly went and added back in as a choice to select when we're out in the field doing observations. Another way we use Power BI, trending monthly. So both of these colors again, 1 month is June, 1 month is July, and whether we want to look at a specific projects or specific turnaround or everything overall, we can kind of compare months. I chose barricade sign here as the main hazard class, and these are all of our subclasses within barricades and where we can drill down into. The main one here was incomplete. In June there were 2 incompletes, and then in July there were 14 incompletes. That drove us to go look into, okay, which project is having that problem? How do we need to go address this? Why was there an increase that quickly? But Mobideo has been a huge, huge game changer for us on our projects and turnarounds. Being able to quickly get the data in, quickly look at the trends, and go make the changes in whatever we feel like we need to make the changes on.
So, Jeremy, is this kind of a standard process that Dow is going through when it addresses safety? So what I'm hearing you say is you collect all this data from people actually out in the field. So first of all, who are those people actually out in the field who's actually collecting? Is it an individual contributor? Is it a supervisor? Is it a safety lead?
It's a mix. We've got all of our EH&S personnel in the field. They'll have either a tablet or intrinsically safe cell phone where they enter all of this data. And then depending on what each project or turnaround wants, we'll set supervisors up, we'll set engineers up, we'll set operators up. Anybody that wants to get involved and start going out in the field and making observations can be. Construction managers will go out. We usually do on our projects and turnarounds a weekly weekly on projects, turnarounds, it's a daily walk with leadership. Plant leaders from other facilities with on the site will come do a walkthrough, put some fresh eyes out there, and they'll be paired with somebody that has a tablet or a phone linked to Mobideo, whether that's a construction manager, turnaround coordinator, turnaround manager, or an EH&S tech. There's no limit to who we can set up to use Mobideo. I think on the Texas 7 turnaround coming up in Freeport, we're actually going to set contractors up to use Mobideo as well. We don't have to have anyone with Dow credentials or Dow IDs to use Mobideo. We can set anybody up into it that wants to use it.
Okay, so you've got these people out in the field collecting these observations, but it sounds like your process is to go through and review this data, and then once you see something that's a focus area, you develop an audit process around that particular focus area and then drive actions from that.
If we need to create an additional audit, we've got several audits already in the video. If we start to see we're having a problem with hot work, we'll shift our focus and tell our guys to go out and do the hot work audit that's already in Mobideo. But we have created new ones along the way. We've created an audit for crane inspections. We've created an audit, like I mentioned, for line of fire and hands. And we've done one other one. I'm drawing a blank on what it is. I want to say it's around slings and rigging, because we have had rigging problems a little bit lately, so we wanted to create an additional, let's go see what these rigging problems are out in the field. Is it certifications? Is it not qualified people? Or is it the actual slings and chokers themselves that are out of date? This is the bottom half of what the audit looks like. The top half of this is where you select the date, the company, those kinds of things. You're making sure all the basic data, you're at the right turnaround, you're at the right facility. But this is really the nuts and bolts of it. A drop down here lets you choose unsafe behaviors or unsafe conditions, or safe behavior and safe conditions, because we do want to capture the positives as well. And we're probably about 60%, 62% opportunities for improvement, and the rest of that is positive, 38%, 40% positive observations in the field. The hazards and the sub-hazards selection is right here. We've got probably 40 different hazard classes. That one is body position, but everything from body position to hot work to heavy equipment, housekeeping, barricades, and then each one of the hazard classes has a separate set of 15 to 20 subclasses as well. So this particular one that's chosen for body position is line of fire. We spent a lot of time figuring out each hazard class that we wanted and what subclasses we wanted beneath each one of those to really get down to those nuts and bolts and really drill down as deep as we could to figure out what those problems were. And Mobideo was a really good help. Anytime we need to go add something, we feel like we've forgotten something, we just want to make a quick change, we submit a ticket, and within a day or two, that's in the system and ready to go. So they really allow us to customize everything that we want to do. It's not a specific template that Mobideo has for safety observations. It's whatever we wanted to come up with. We had a blank slate, we could do whatever we wanted. And really a lot of what we do is the way we have Mobideo set up is to drive personal engagement. So we want a description of what the observation is. On the previous page, a little further up, we want to know the foreman's name. So we want all of our people to go interact with those crews out in the field. We've seen in the past that a lot of people, EH&S sometimes can get a bad rep, right? Where the safety cops, all we're doing is out there writing tickets and coming back in and sending an email to everybody. That's not something I like to do. I like to be more of a coach. I want to talk to those people. So how we coach our fellow EH&S people and the other people who are doing these audits is to have them interact with people in the field. So we want them to talk to them, find out why they're doing it the way they're doing it, which is what the description is. The actions are, what actions did we take out there in the field? Did we coach them and correct them on the spot? Is this something a little bit more that we need to go get with leadership about and have a stand down, do a safety meeting, something along those lines. But we really drive personal engagement with this tool a whole lot more than just cards of the past. Cards of the past and our old ways of doing things was people would just walk out, they'd see whatever it was, they'd write it down, they'd go back in, turn it in. All right, I got my 5 safety observations for the day. We don't put a number on any of these. We really want that personal engagement out in the field. So you got your description of what happened, your actions taken, and then we have one step further where we have a severity rating of 1 through 5, 5 being positive, 4 being low risk, 3 medium, 2 high risk, and 1 something that could potentially like a life-altering event. And once we hit those triggers, the 1s and the 2s, we have it set up to where it automatically sends alerts to certain individuals, whether it's the turnaround manager, the project manager, and our EH&S leadership. When we hit those high enough numbers, they get sent alerts, so then we can go look at it immediately, figure out what change we need to make, and go from there.
So Jeremy, what does it take for you guys to train somebody up on how to use these observations? So somebody new's hired at Dow, they're part of this role where they're filling out observations card. What does it look like to get somebody on board and trained up and ready to use this?
Not very long at all. I'll just use this audience. There's about 20 people in here. If all of you were going to be observers on a turnaround, we would schedule an hour and a half time, take you through how to enter an observation, this page and the previous page, and then kind of how we want y'all to approach making those interventions out in the field, the types of questions we want you to ask, and that's it, they're ready to go. So it's a very short process, hour and a half for the training to enter a new turnaround into the system is submitting a ticket a day or two. To enter all of you as observers into the system is about a 10-minute process. A username for each one of you, your email addresses, and a password for each one of you, and y'all are good to go. It doesn't take very long at all to get a construction project or a new turnaround set up. One of the other things we do trend that's on the other page is areas. So we know the unit, what the name of the unit is. We also want to break down that unit into areas, whether it's 3 areas or 10 areas. We'll talk with the project or the turnaround and figure out what do you want to call your areas. So then we can also drill down and see exactly where some of those problems are. Are they just near the furnaces? Are they on the hot end of the unit, the cold end of the unit? Where exactly those things are happening? Some past ideas that some people still cling to in Dow is they don't want to know names of the company, they don't want to know foreman names, those types of things. No name, no blame. Just submit and we'll figure it out. Whatever problems we have, we'll do a tailgate with everybody. We felt like that could be a waste of time to gather the entire turnaround or the entire construction project up. So we go a little bit further and we want to know those company names and those foreman names. And not just so we can get rid of the company or get rid of the foreman, but so we can go get back with that company and say, hey, we have an opportunity here. We see this as a problem. How can we help y'all fix this problem? What coaching can we give your foreman? How can we go improve things in the field? And we've had some of our contractors that come to us and they want to see, they'll tell us, we feel like we have a problem with this particular foreman, with Joe. Can y'all give us the data on Joe? And we'll turn over that data and then sometimes it confirms it. Yep, we thought we had a problem with Joe. We'll pull him aside, we'll do some coaching, or if they feel like they need to swap him out, they will. So we've had contractors ask us for their specific data at times, and that's helped them make the changes or just confirm some of their thoughts on how they were doing, whether it was good or bad. Currently in the overall group that I work in, which is maintenance, turnarounds, and construction projects, we are 829, that number's about a week old, so we're about up to 836, 837 days safe without a recordable. And we have a couple different levels of recordables. higher recordables, life-altering type recordables, and then just your basic run-of-the-mill fracturing a wrist type recordable, not life-threatening or not serious, but it still classifies as a recordable. But it's been about 836 or 37 days since we've had one in the 3 areas that I work mostly in. Kind of how this has helped with that is how quickly we can respond when we see certain trends and how quickly we can pivot and make a decision on drilling down a little bit further or creating an additional audit here to go focus and help correct an area. Like I mentioned earlier, our overall process, it just drives that personal engagement more. We feel like the more our team is out in the field interacting with workers, the more they can make an impact rather than just writing something down, sending out an email, and everybody gets in trouble at that point. One of our main things for Dow is making things personal, getting down to that personal level with people. And the last one, like I've mentioned a couple times, just allows us to create some more specific audits when we feel like we need to. Some of our current challenges with Mobideo is the plant I'm at was built in 1956. So we have a lot of units that are 40 years old, 60 years old, and we need to do some infrastructure upgrades across our entire sites, which is a big challenge. Updating the Wi-Fi, updating with LTE antennas. So as some of you probably know when you're in facilities, that's a big cost. That's a lot. Sometimes that's a very slow process. So some of our facilities are working through those upgrades, and it's slowly at a time. One unit here, kind of slowly working through. The plant takes sometimes 4 or 5 years to get that complete upgrade. Procurement of compatible devices, intrinsically safe devices. Pretty much every single one of our facilities that we go in, you need to have Class 1, Div 1 type equipment to use, right? So our projects, our construction projects will buy these intrinsically safe phones without a problem. And give them to anybody that needs them, or tablets. The turnarounds are a little more hesitant in procuring the phones and the tablets. It's hard to find them to rent sometimes, and they don't want to pay for them. And they're like, well, what do we do when the turnaround's over? Well, we try and convince them, you already paid for it, it can go from this turnaround to this turnaround, and then this turnaround, and follow that turnaround group all around wherever they're going, and they can reuse them over and over. Some units still do not allow Class 1, Div 1 tablets or phones in their facilities, even when they're down. They just don't want to risk it no matter what. Those units, it's a little bit more of a struggle. We have everybody enter everything on their laptops or their workstations. Some groups still want to use separate radios aside from phones. The phone I pulled out, we used in Canada for an entire turnaround. Nobody had a separate radio. It was all these phones, and they've got the talk to text feature where I can hit a button and call each one of you directly. Another good thing about those types of devices is they're multi-use, right? People that use the wrench time data, they use these devices. You take pictures in the field of the incidents that happen. You can make the phone calls, use them as a radio, and enter your safety observations on, which we're slowly getting to convincing more and more construction projects and turnarounds to use them once they see that they can do all of these things on them and they don't have to worry about radios anymore. And the cost of radios seemingly has been going up and up and up on renting radios. I don't know if any of y'all have noticed that. User adoption is one of the big challenges. Just people who aren't used to using computers or tablets or phones very much. They're perfectly fine with, I just want to fill out a card and turn it in, right? That's a struggle at times until they kind of see how quickly things can happen and we get leadership on board. Once leadership is on board and they see those changes, then it slowly starts to change and we slowly get away from those paper copies and just filling out a card and turning it in. Priorities. Some of the turnarounds are, our priority isn't digitalization. My priority is getting this turnaround done, right? So we'll have competing priorities. They may not want to take the time to fully implement Mobideo or a process like this if it's going to interfere with their turnaround plans or put their turnaround behind. So at times we'll get that as a challenge as well, just that competing priority a little bit. It's getting better as each project sees it and as each turnaround sees it. They're coming around more and more to wanting to do this and then asking the questions, how early do we need to start to implement this, to have it ready for day one, or pre-work for a turnaround as well. A couple of the things that we're looking at next for DMA is digital procedures. Permitting, we do a lot of things on permitting, and there was one of the presentations yesterday around paper permits versus e-permits. We're also looking at what can we write procedures for instead of writing a permit for, and then having those procedures downloaded to be able to pull up on the phones or the tablets as well, and then being able to audit those procedures to make sure they're doing everything properly. Digital compliance rounds for the units, the operating units themselves are looking at using these types of tools more so they can go do all of their compliance rounds in the field on tablets and on phones versus having to bring the procedure out in the field with them, fill it out, come in and file it in a library or make sure it gets filed properly in a library. And then our ad hoc changes are very easy to make whenever we need to make them with the support that Daniel and Mobideo team have given us. Yep, last slide there. Thank you very much.